noticed the victim would not be in his bed the following morning and would be sleeping in bed with the defendant, where he admits that he is in fact the father of this defendant's 5-year-old child.
Laura is 34 years old. Her background is spotless.
The court finds that less restrictive means are available and will deny the state's motion for detention.
An accused predator teacher is back on the streets, and we're taking a closer look at the hundreds of alleged criminal acts against Laura Caron. And what did that victim's family know about this alleged relationship? Well, the boy's father is who blew the whistle, but there are still many unanswered questions this morning. Also this hour, the trial of hip-hop star A$AP Rocky is getting underway, and we're talking about how he rejected a sweetheart deal on the eve of his trial. Plus, the cheerleader accused of killing a rival's prized goat is now facing a big penalty. Guilty or not, the allegations are changing the teenager's life. We'll talk about it. It's all coming up next, plus much more right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? That's what we like to say when we talk about this show. We get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So let's start things off as we always do. Go ahead and grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Why is she out? Why is a New Jersey teacher out on bond as she awaits her child sex assault case? 34-year-old Laura Caron is accused of molesting one of her 5th grade students when he was 11 years old and she was 28. Police say she continued sexually abusing the little boy and that he impregnated her when he was 13. That baby is a 5-year-old girl. Now, she is the only minor that Laura Caron is permitted to have contact with. The young boy is now an adult, and the court is not permitting Caron to have any contact with him or his family. What a mess. And you know, I have to wonder, if it was a male school teacher accused, would he be out on bond this morning? What if the person wasn't a school teacher at all? Let's say they were jobless. You think they'd get a bond? I don't. If I were that judge, I would see her as a danger to the community based on the allegations of sexually assaulting a minor child. And I wouldn't run the risk of letting her stay in the community until her case is resolved. But that's just me. My friends, this is a messed up world we live in. An innocent child was allegedly molested, and now his innocent child is about to experience the consequences of the illicit activity. My heart breaks for those child victims. But I tell you what, it doesn't break for the adult teacher who police say broke the law. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. We're going to talk more about this case in just a moment. But first, let's get to your daily docket.
Doctor, what's the cause of death of Michael Cochran, according to your review of the records?
Well, I'm not a cause of death expert since I'm an endocrinologist, and my expertise is in hypoglycemia. But it appears that his death was related to hypoglycemia, which then produced cerebral edema.
Today's case is going to wrap up today in the Ponzi scheme murder trial for Natalie Cochran. Court's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. This one's happening in West Virginia. In Kansas, we've got opening statements expected to begin in Court TV's newest case. This one is the stepdaughter turned wife murder trial. Defendant Larry Ingram is accused of shooting his stepdaughter, who later became his common law wife. That begins at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. And in California, we've got opening statements possibly beginning today, possibly in the trial of rapper A$AP Rocky. His real name is Rakeem Myers, and he's accused of firing a gun at a former friend of his. Now, let's get to your top story this morning. That New Jersey teacher accused of sexually assaulting an 11-year-old and having his baby. Take a listen to some of the allegations laid out against Laura Caron.
On December 16, 2024, the victim's sister explained to police that she spent time at the defendant's residence and believed the victim was 11 when he started sleeping at the defendant's residence. The sister explained that the children would sleep in a shared bedroom on the second floor, but noticed the victim would not be in his bed the following morning and would be sleeping in bed with the defendant. The sister stated that the victim would shower in the first floor bathroom while the other children would shower in the second floor bathroom. The sister also noticed that when the victim would shower, the defendant would enter the bathroom and lock the door. The sister also provided a screenshot of a text conversation she had with the victim where he admits that he is in fact the father of this defendant's 5-year-old child.
Okay, so something important to note here. The victim was living at the defendant's home. We don't know why. We have no idea why the case victim and his siblings were at her home. We know based on the reporting that she somehow became friendly with one of the child's parents. Not sure what the situation was with the child's parents, but the kids ended up being with her on a full-time basis. And her next court appearance is going to be on February 25th. This case has people talking all around the country. There are so many unanswered questions, but let's dig in on the facts that we do know. That the allegation is that this abuse went on for years, that it began when the boy was 11, continued for many years. He's an adult now, as I mentioned in my opening statement, and fathered a child, police say, when he was just 13, and that little girl is 5 now. I have two brilliant guests I want to bring in now to help me drill down on these facts. Let's welcome them in. Attorney, professor, and author Wendy Murphy is here. So is licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. Good morning to you both. Wendy, let me start with you, please, with the legal aspects of this. The facts as we know them thus far. Want to get your take. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know this, you were a child abuse prosecutor and served in that role for many years. So tell us what you're thinking about as you hear of this case, please.
Like everybody watching, my first question is, what's the backstory? And why aren't we hearing anything about it? My concern whenever there's sexual abuse of a child behind closed doors is that there's some sort of child pornography or trafficking involved. Because let's face it, it's expensive to take care of 3 children. She brought 3 children into her home on a teacher's salary. That means she had to afford to care for them in some fashion. Now, was she getting help from the state? According to what I've read, no. So this would have been on her salary. Where's the money coming from? What incentivized her to want to do this? I mean, it's nice to take care of children. Perhaps she has a good heart and just wanted to care for them, and the raping of this poor child, was a side hustle, if you will. But I think really the most important question is, what was her motive? Where did she get the drive to want to not just bring 3 children in, but then systematically, routinely, and consistently over years rape a child and become pregnant? I don't like it when we say things like he impregnated her. That makes him look like the actor. No, she became pregnant by him. She forced him. She's the actor in that scene of rape of a child. It doesn't matter how the body parts work. It only matters that she was the adult, the aggressor. He was a completely vulnerable child, and she became pregnant by him. That, to me, is an aggravating factor. There's nothing romantic about the fact that a child was born. That makes this a more serious crime. She ought to spend more time in prison for that aggravated factor. But again, I think we cannot make sense of this case, and we deserve to make sense of this case until we find out whether she was doing this for the more sinister purposes of trafficking this child, making pornography, and so forth. That's my hunch as a child abuse prosecutor. There's always more to the story.
Excellent analysis from you, Wendy. As always, thank you for all of that. Turning to some of the family dynamics now, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, I want to ask you something. A lot of people are saying, how could the boys' parents not know this was going on? And so we know that the boy's father is the one who alerted police when he said he was looking on Facebook and sees this little 5-year-old girl's picture and is saying, the child really looks a lot like my son and a lot like me. That's the story. Maybe there's more to this. But Dr. Jamie, for anybody thinking, how could they not have any idea, especially with them living together? What do you say to that, please?
So I think everybody failed this child. I think that I'm not so sure that people are not occurred. I'm not sure what her motive was, as we said before. There's a lot more information to this. And again, as I said, everybody failed this child, but I'm not so sure that the people around did not know what was going on. I find that very hard to believe.
Right, Dr. Jamie. I have another clip I want to play for you both. The state in this woman's detention hearing detailed for the court 416 alleged acts of sexual assault against that little boy.
While the victim was between the ages of 11 and 15. At that time, this defendant was employed as a teacher, occupying a position of authority, mentorship, and trust in the life of that child. The victim indicated the sexual assaults occurred 2 times a week for 4 years. That would be 416 separate sexual assaults this defendant committed against a child.
Wendy Murphy, back to you, please. What do you think when you hear the amount of these instances?
I think that is exactly the kind of case I prosecuted. We always had circumstances where we knew a child was abused consistently over a period of time, although of course the child couldn't say, on February 3rd between 4 and 5 p.m. I was raped. What they would say is it was about twice a week, or it was on Tuesdays and Saturdays. They would sort of guess the average, if you will, how often it happened, and we would do the math. And thankfully, the law allows us to charge incidents based on speculation around the consistency that the victim recalls, that you don't have to be able to allege the specific date, like you do if you're going to allege other crimes like robbery or something. You have to be very clear that it happened on a certain date. You do not have to be so clear when the victim is a child and you're talking about this kind of abuse. So it doesn't surprise me. Anyone who is a predatory offender against a child is going to rape and abuse that child a lot. It's never once. It's just never one time. And especially when you somehow get the blessing of the parents to have them behind closed doors where you can do whatever you want. I mean, I don't know why the parents aren't charged here. Yes, charge her. Yes, put her in prison. Excellent choice. Put the parents in prison too. And if we don't get an answer to why the parents aren't charged, then I think we get to infer even more strongly that there's more to this story about where the money was, who was paying whom for what.
Yes.
We deserve answers.
Yes. Preach, my friend, preach. Yes. And to Dr. Jamie's point, everybody failed this child. You're right. These parents need to be examined. Why did they put their babies in this woman's hands? Yes. I want to ask a question of you, Dr. Jamie. This has been something it's puzzled me for a long time. So thinking about the psychology and getting in the mind of a predator, any predator who goes after children. I always used to say, and I still to this day say, anybody who can be, a sex abuse prosecutor, you are a special person, because it is nauseating to handle that work and to think about what happens to kids. And the normal brain, to me, Dr. Jamie, just doesn't seem to be able to handle it. It's like these people's brains are wired differently, these abusers. Would you speak to that, how they think so much differently than the way most normal people think?
Yeah, so when you see cases like this is about power and control. And when you have somebody whose primary aim is power and control, the level of empathy and the level of accountability is not present. They feel entitled. They truly don't entertain the consequences of their actions. And it's the kind of, we see this grooming behavior. And I think that's one of the things that's missed in this, is that the final outcome was the sexual abuse. But there is a very long grooming that occurs way before that happens, from, befriending the parents and, getting the child alone without the parents there. And, there's a very long process. It's very calculated. It's very manipulative and very deliberate. So, again, this isn't a one-time thing. This was, there's a very distinct playbook and process to this.
Right. Dr. Jamie, just a follow-up for you, please. This is fascinating hearing you speak about this. When you said there's a power and control dynamic at play, makes me think about domestic violence cases, which, as you know, are all about the power and control. So they're similar. Huh? I never thought of it that way with child predators.
Yeah. So sometimes with child predators, it's not so much that it's the person themselves, it's the degree to which the person has the ability and the access to control. And if you think about it, children are very easy to take control of. I mean, we see this as parents, we see this as teachers. I mean, that's our job, is to make sure that they live in a structure. A child is somebody that's easily accessible, especially when you have somebody caretaking role, some sort of nurturing role. And because of that process of grooming really, especially for female predators, really flies under the radar, because it's couched under this kind of idea of caregiver, teacher to a student. So we don't really look at it as this, bright red flag that we see.
Such fascinating analysis. Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, thank you for all of that. This woman's going to be back in court in February. She's not going to be held in jail in the meantime. She's going to be out, but restricted, and we'll see what happens. And we're going to watch for whether those parents are going to be charged. Wendy Murphy, we have you to thank you for that. I have to say thank you to you both and let you go. Attorney Wendy Murphy, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, thank you for lending us your expertise this morning. We'll see you back here very soon, I sure hope. And coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got for you.
I try to say I prepare myself. I wasn't prepared for that. It seems unreal. We don't know him except for being behind bars for 36 years.
This is the daughter of the victim in the railroad spike killer case. She is joining us live this morning. She's got a big update on some people that she recently met who were instrumental in her mom's case. But first, A$AP Rocky standing trial after refusing a plea deal. Will his celebrity status and his significant other, Rihanna, affect the jury? A Ponzi scheme and a deadly poisoning.
A former pharmacist already convicted in a federal fraud case
now stands trial for the murder of her husband.
The financial crime gives rise to murder.
Did Natalie Cochran kill to cover up other crimes?
We're not here to obtain convictions. We're here to obtain the truth.
Now a jury will decide her fate,
and Court TV will bring you every minute.
The Ponzi scheme murder trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Jiggy like Madonna, but she trippy like Nirvana, cause everything designer. Her jeans is Helmet Lang, shoes is Alexander Wang, and her shirt the newest Donna Karen. Wearing all the Cartier frames, Jean Paul Gaultier's, cause they match with her persona.
Known for his fashion style and flair, hip-hop star A$AP Rocky is now facing years behind bars, potentially. His trial is what's trending in true crime this morning as the 36-year-old turned down a sweetheart deal on the eve of his jury selection. Rocky's real name is Rakeem Mayers, and he declined a final offer from Los Angeles prosecutors to spend 180 days in jail. The agreement also included a 7-year suspended sentence and 3 years of probation, but he said no way. The Grammy-nominated rapper is accused of shooting a former friend of his near a Hollywood hotel back in 2021. And so now, if he is convicted, he's looking at a maximum sentence of 24 years in prison. So let's talk about the fact that he turned down the deal. What does it say about the case that Rocky rejected that plea offer? Let's bring in our legal eagles now, former prosecutor and now criminal defense attorney Franz Borchardt and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt are with us. Good morning to you both. All right, what does it say about Rocky? Jennifer, your thoughts, please.
I think it says that Rocky believes that he's innocent. I mean, he says that he was carrying a prop gun, a fake gun, and he didn't make he didn't shoot anybody. He didn't do anything. And I think he really believes that, because otherwise he probably would have taken the deal, faced with a potentially 24-year sentence, I believe. So it was a good deal. But if you're innocent, then why take a deal at all?
Exactly, Jennifer. Franz, to you next, please. What does it say to you?
So allow me to take the other side of the coin on this one. He needs to really reconsider that decision, rejecting that deal. He is facing some significant jail time, and I don't doubt that he has faith in a system that he believes will not convict an innocent person. And he may, in fact, be truly innocent. He may have, in fact, have a wonderful defense, but 180 days with some suspended time over your head versus possibly spending decades in jail. This is the high stakes table, Julie, and I get really nervous when we start rejecting deals that involve days and we're facing consequences that involve decades. So I don't know if he's making the right decision on this one.
Great point, Franz. And Franz, another follow-up. I mean, you know this well from the criminal practice that you have. Big difference between a jail. Jail's generally less than a year's time. You're going to go into jail. If it's more than a year, you're going to go to prison. Prison versus jail. Ooh, that's a big difference too, isn't it?
Well, so spending 2 decades or up to 2 decades in a Department of Corrections in California, we'll call that a life-altering experience. 180 days, and here's the other question, is 180 days, or is it a percentage of the 180 days? So he might be jockeying to see if the deal gets better, Julie. And look, let's be honest, sometimes the deal does get better at the eve of trial. But this deal seems pretty darn good. And so maybe the calculus really is he's innocent and I can't plead guilty to something I didn't do. But sometimes as a defense attorney, the worst conversations I have to have is about the fact that you may in fact be innocent, but this is such a good deal. How are you going to feel if you get convicted as an innocent person and are waiting for an appeal that may not happen? And a new trial that may not happen, and you're spending decades in prison, and you could have been home in 180 days. Oh.
Right. No, great points. Jennifer, let me go back to you because I'm in agreement with you. When I heard about this, I had 2 thoughts. I thought, it's either one, he didn't do this. And so he's, saying, you know what, not me, wasn't me, I'm going to go to trial, prove your case. Or it was he knows there are flaws in the case if he did do it. I'm not saying he did, but I want to talk to you about those flaws. So, Jen, tell me what you think about this. I was doing some research and read that while there is surveillance video, the shooter can't be identified. The shooter's apparently wearing a dark hoodie and face is covered. There's no way to say this was Rocky if it was him. And then the other thing, the spent cartridge casings that were fired at this man who was formerly friends with him were collected by the case victim and turned over to police. So those 2 things right there, when I read that, I thought, oh, I might roll the dice too. What do you think?
Yeah. You're right. And I think that also the video, there was no sound on the video, so you couldn't hear any gunshots or see any flashes from a muzzle. So, I mean, he has that working in his favor. I think he'll have witnesses that'll come forward that say he didn't shoot anybody. And the victim didn't come forward right away either. It came forward much later. So I think those are some flaws in the case that, did this really happen? I mean, they had a disagreement over, I believe, ASAP Rocky paying certain expenses for a funeral, which he ultimately paid. So I think he feels pretty confident that, he will survive these charges, that it will go away. I agree, there are serious consequences, that he faces, but this defense also came recently. So maybe he is, throwing this up now and saying, this is going to be my defense at trial, hoping that maybe prosecutors will relent and maybe he will get a better plea offer, or maybe they'll drop the case. I mean, that's probably unlikely, but I think he feels pretty confident that he's going to beat these charges.
Yeah, really great points, Jennifer. And I like what you said, too, another refresher, the victim didn't come forward right away. Also wasn't badly injured, and we thank goodness for that.
Right.
He had his knuckles grazed by the gunfire. So, gosh, that's about as fortunate as one could get when you think about all the people you see in the criminal justice system, who are injured badly in shootings or killed. Pretty darn good. So all of these things are at play in terms of the facts and the deal rejection. Let me turn to something else with you both. I want to ask you about the celebrity factor in this case. So we know that when we have a high-profile case, we can have high-profile attendees. The big question, will Rihanna be there? We don't know. So Rocky's attorney suggested that the megastar, she's a billionaire, 9-time Grammy winner, beloved. She's got her Fenty Beauty line. She may not attend. It's unlikely, but he didn't say it was a definite no. So we'll see. Rihanna and Rocky have 2 little boys together. They've been a fixture on the red carpets. They're known just as much for their fashion as they are for their music, really. And so they've been someone that reporters and paparazzi have always been looking forward to seeing what they wear since they became public, became an item. So we know 100 prospective jurors brought in for jury selection in Los Angeles County. From the initial 12 who were questioned, 4 of them said they knew who A$AP Rocky is, and 10 of them said they knew who Rihanna is. So how might the celebrity factor play into this? Franz, would you start us off with your thoughts, please?
So celebrity factor could play in any number of ways, but I will tell you a simpler factor that will play in is if his partner, the mother of his children, is not sitting by him or standing by him while he's on trial for these serious charges. I don't care if you know who Rihanna is or not, you're going to notice that, right? And so
point.
She's in a trick. She is in a trick bag because if she shows up, she's a distraction. If she doesn't show up, then does she believe that he actually did it? Does she believe? I mean, look, the common sense answer is she's a billionaire. There's a billion reasons why she may not be at the trial of her children's father. However, man, oh man, if I'm defending him, I want her there because I want her standing by her man, and I want her supporting him. I want family members there because look, at the end of the day, innocent people have people rally behind them. That's what juries think. They think that if you're innocent, people are going to show up and support you. And her not showing up, it's not a celebrity factor thing. It's well, man, the mother of your children's not showing up.
I agree with you, Franz. That's a great point. Okay, so let's take it a step further. So, Jennifer Brandt, let me ask you, please. So let's say, as one of Rocky's lawyers, you're saying it's really important that your wife be there. How do you do that with her in the court? I mean, how do you practically, get her? What are some of the considerations you might go through with Rihanna and then with your fellow members of the legal team?
I know. Well, it's going to be a huge distraction if she's there. And, the judge may impose certain restrictions having her there because, you want to have a trial and be able to conduct business and get the trial over and done with. So I think, having her there's going to be people outside looking for her, possibly paparazzi around. So certainly the trial is going to get heightened visibility with her there. So there's a lot of obstacles having her there. I agree with Franz that she should be there to support her partner and the father of her children. I think that's, really would be a good message to send to the jury. And I also think just on the celebrity status issue, I think the fact that he is a celebrity and has a high profile relationship makes it more plausible that he would carry a prop gun because how many, ordinary people would walk around with a prop gun? But somebody like him, who is a celebrity and, may want to have that extra protection, or at least seem to have extra protection, I think that plays in really well to his defense as well.
Yeah, I love that point. Jennifer, thank you for that. We're going to continue talking about this. We're just about out of time, but I got to say, if I was one of his lawyers, I'd say, do it like Johnny Depp. I mean, he would come to court every day, wouldn't he, like the cat that just ate the mouse? I mean, he was smiling, and there was terrible stuff coming out about him into the case, but the way he carried himself every day as Bob Marley music. You know, he just knew how to work the cameras, the jury, everything. He did a brilliant job, and that confidence in that show really paid off. So we'll see what happens if Rihanna will be there. Franz and Jennifer, you're going to be there for our Tipping the Scales segment. So hang tight for just a moment. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next. We're spotlighting victim Amanda Mayer in the railroad spike killer case. Her daughter, her biggest advocate, is joining us live next. Plus, big restrictions on the Texas cheerleader accused of poisoning her rival's goat. Poor Willie the goat was killed. And now this cheerleader who's facing criminal charges is also facing some big restrictions. Welcome back. This morning we're spotlighting the victim in the railroad spike killer case, 18-year-old Amanda Mayer. Now, her family members who survived her at a loss after the man convicted of her murder has now been granted a brand new trial. 59-year-old David Lee Myers sentenced to death in the 1996 killing of 18-year-old Amanda Jo Mayer. So this is him. This is who was initially convicted. Now, she was found partially naked near train tracks with a railroad spike in her temple. Police say that Myers was the last person seen alive with Mayer. But a new trial was granted for him earlier this year based on some newly discovered DNA evidence discovered from the railroad spike and from a rock that was connected from Mayer's body. Now, Myers is on house arrest right now in Ohio as he's awaiting a new trial. So he's off death row, back at home, and we'll see what happens when he goes back to court. We want to put the focus on the victim's family, though. What are her family members thinking and feeling as they're reliving this nightmare? I want to welcome in Amanda's daughter, Sarah Sparkman. I say she's her mom's best advocate, and she's joining us live on the program again. Sarah, good morning to you. You have been such a champion for your mom, and since we last talked, I know that you've been busy. You've been busy meeting with some really important people to your mother's case. So would you tell us about who you've met, please?
Yeah, hi, Julie. How are you? Good to see you again.
You too.
So I have spent this time, I'm in this weird place of, I felt like I had maybe found some closure, but now everything up in the air. It's hard to find some kind of normalcy in all this until we get to an end. So in the meantime, I have actually met with two of the police officers that were part of my mother's case. And it's something we would probably have to come back and speak more on. Life-changing. Closure on both parts. Not as much, I didn't realize that closure that it would give for them. The bond that we created, it's kind of weird, but comforting in a way. So that's where I'm at right now, kind of just, like I said, trying to find normalcy in this lengthy appeal process.
Sure. No, I know it's tough. I mean, it must feel surreal for you, Sarah. I understand you met with two officers who were there who responded and answered the call with your mom's killing. Would you tell us about how you connected with them today and what they shared with you?
Yeah, so they were kind of, unsure if it was something that I wanted to do, and I'm glad that I took this opportunity. And I think a big thing for them, and like you said, this is a weird moment right here. And I think to them, they felt there was doubts, and there's not doubts. The only doubts I have is this position that I've been put in now, that we've got a man that is guilty, and we just have him out waiting for a decision. Those are the doubts that I have kind of right now, and the justice system, and kind of just where I'm thrown. But in a whole, there is no doubts, and meeting them just, I think, solidified that. And you can read everything you want on the case, and I can listen to all the stories, from family members, but to hear firsthand people that were there, it gave me something that I never thought that I would have in my life. So again, why do we have to be here? But there's some good coming of it. So I don't know why we have to take this strange road, but there's good coming out of it in between. So in between that, I'm just hopeful and patient. That's all I can be.
Right, Sarah. Yeah, no, you've got the right attitude. How about the district attorney's office and any victims advocate that may be working with you? What are they sharing about the case as we're moving forward to the next trial for this guy?
So as of right now, we're about 3 months into, and I'm going to say, I'm hoping, and I hate to say it because it's still so far off, April, we're going to see some movement here, this going somewhere. And that's just me putting on that the continuances that can be taken on both sides. I believe they can each take about 3 continuances. Those equal 20 days. And that just kind of plays into just this lengthy, I know people probably say, how does this take so long? But there's just so many, ins and outs. And that's one of them taking contingencies. And from what I've seen, they are probably on both sides going to take it, just giving them time to build their case. So I'm hoping by April that there's going to be a little bit of movement, but again, a weird spot. The phone could ring any day now. We could hang up and it could ring, but I can't live my life like that. So I just try to, like I say, just remain patient.
Right. No, you've got the right attitude. You just do what you can do, right? And you're doing everything you can do. I'm meeting with these officers that responded, on that dreadful day, talking with the district attorney's office, keeping the hope up. Sarah Sparkman, you're such an inspiration. Thank you for touching base with us. Please continue to do so. We'll have you back again as we get closer and closer to the next court date. And as we head to break, we want to show everyone a picture of your mom, Amanda Jo Mayer, 18 years old when she was killed back in 1996. What a beautiful lady, and that's her holding Sarah, who we were just talking with, a beautiful daughter. So we'll continue our advocacy for her, continue spotlighting her case, and hoping and praying that she gets justice. We'll be right back.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial. Coverage begins following jury selection on Court TV.
Now, for what's tipping the scales, a Texas high school cheerleader accused of killing a rival student's goat is now banned from taking care of her own animals while she's out on bond. We told you about 17-year-old Aubrey Van Landingham after she was arrested for poisoning another student's goat. She was the president for school's Future Farmers of America Club at the time. Police obtained video where the girl used a syringe-like device to put bleach in the goat's mouth. She allegedly poisoned Willie the goat twice in 3 days. This was back in October. There's precious Willie. He passed away. And now, so the judge has slapped her with some interesting conditions. Let's take a look at them on your screen. So she's out on a $5,000 bond. She's to have no contact with the victim, that student, or her family. She can only have contact with the animals that live in her house. Apparently, she's got a dog, a cat, and a rabbit with adult supervision, but she can't be around any other animals, apparently. Good. Let's bring in our legal eagles and talk about it. Franz Borghardt, Jennifer Brandt, want to get your thoughts on this case. That poor Willie the goat, and that poor girl who owned Willie. Willie died in her arms, and now this teenager is paying the price and going through the criminal justice system. Jennifer, what do you think about her conditions? The judge saying she can't have any contact with any animals, and the ones in her house, somebody has to be watching her.
I think those are really good conditions. In fact, I would probably go a step further and take her animals away.
Yes.
I mean, because she's just, it's really horrific. I mean, what she did. I mean, she force-fed this goat bleach and killed it. I mean, she's supposed to be president of the Future Farmers of America, adept at handling animals, having her own show goat and other animals, but she's a danger. She's a danger to animals, and I think she should also get some help, because clearly something's wrong. If you could do something like that and be that cruel and intentional, then, you know, there's some serious considerations going on here. And see, maybe she needs some additional help beyond just having adult supervision over the care of her animals.
Yes, yes, Jennifer, you're so right. I love that analysis. You know, if I was a judge, I would order her to have a mental health evaluation immediately as part of this, right? You know, and she said, she made the comment after she was caught. She said, well, I don't like cheaters. That was her comment. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't sad for poor Willie or what she allegedly did. It was, I don't like cheaters. It was like it was vindictive, allegedly. Franz, tell me what you think. I saw you nodding when I said she needs an eval.
Who would have thought that the animal showmanship world was so cutthroat, Julie? I mean, wow. I definitely think she needs a mental health evaluation because, one, we can't lose sight of the fact that she's still a kid, right? We don't have to like what she did. There needs to be a consequence to what she did, but she's not an adult. So we get to do things in the justice system for juveniles different than we do for adults. She needs a mental health evaluation. We need to know if this was a isolated incident of just really galactically bad decision making, or if there's something else going on. If there's something else going on, we need her to maybe get some treatment for that something else that's going on. Bottom line is the person that's willing to kill a goat to win or to somehow take the law into their own hands, that's a red flag, right? That's a giant red flag. And look, she may be a perfectly normal human being that just made a really stupid decision. But if I'm prosecuting this or if I'm the judge, I want to sleep better at night knowing that we've excluded some things like the mental health component. And I would not let her walk out of my courtroom until I have that evaluation. And look, as a condition of bond, they can do all sorts of things for her to be released that will get her help if that's what she really needs.
Right, Franz, right. Yeah, it sounds like she does. And you're right, that's a great point. Start it now. Start it in the pre-trial process for her, where there is supervision, as we know. You know, probation services has the ability to do certain things if it's court ordered. She's facing a felony charge, maximum of 2 years confinement. Maximum if she's convicted. Arrested just on November 22nd of last year. Jennifer Brand, how do you see this case playing out when we think, you know, at the end of all of this, you know, discovery and everything that goes back and forth, do you think she'll go to trial?
Well, I don't know. I think there'll probably be some kind of plea deal. She is a child, as Franz pointed out. And I think the bigger issue here is, obviously, I mean, the penalties, the fines. I know the victim's family wants her punished and to pay for what she did. I think she does need to learn a lesson and possibly get some help if she's suffering mentally. But I think ultimately, you know, it's a question of what can be crafted to really make sure that she doesn't do something like this again in the future. I think that's what we're all hoping for here. I mean, there's no doubt that she did this. But then the question is why and what can be, you know, what can happen in the future to prevent her from doing anything more or anything more serious than this. So I think that should be the focus.
Yeah, no, you're so right, Jennifer. I think she's got to have a long period of probation. If I were the judge or the prosecutor, that's what I'd be thinking about, is keeping her on the hook, keeping her supervised. Because 17, my gosh, and you know, you allegedly kill a goat, a live animal, and you're supposed to be someone who loves animals. It's stunning. So we'll keep an eye on Ms. Vlandingham as she continues going through the system. We got to leave it there, and Franz and Jennifer, I have to let you both get off to court. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise this morning. Stay safe out there. And my friends, if you want to watch this episode again, please do. We put them up on courttv.com every day for you. Just click on the show's tab.